Hello and welcome to Mortgage Mythbusters,
Hello.
episode 14. How good was that jingle?
Amazing.
Best jingle
Absolutely
I've
amazing.
ever heard. Hope you've only tuned in just to hear that jingle.
Thanks to Dave. Dave.
We're sat here, we're like, this is the first time we're going to put the jingle on. And I honestly can't remember how the jingle goes.
No, neither can I.
It's definitely not ripping off the Ghostbusters.
Nope.
Just to cover ourselves for trademarks and things
it's
like
not.
that.
It's not.
But yeah, about time, eh? But we've had,
Inspired by, maybe.
I think, over a month without a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, very probably.
I'll use the excuse of the mortgage market. We've been so busy that we
Yeah.
haven't had time to. But also it's the summer holidays.
Yeah.
And we've done the right thing by probably having a little bit of time with the families. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
We've been doing a lot of things in the background which might be brought up as we go through today's myth. But we'll let you have it anyway. So the last time we spoke, the myth was your rate is secured when you get an agreement in principle or a decision in principle.
Yeah. Obviously, I haven't really thought that much about it with it being such a long time ago. But you did say that I think it was one or two of the banks or the lenders would maybe give you for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So you have like it's like secured for X amount of days. Is that still?
I think I made a prediction and said like more will join the suit.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened.
Hasn't happened. Is that because of how the markets and stuff have fluctuated and how it's all in the air?
Yeah. I think the priorities lie elsewhere, and what they're thinking about is really looking at costings. And I suppose to transition into that must take a lot, and it almost have to switch off the products for a bit, because if you can imagine, they've got those that haven't secured a product and got a dip. I'm guessing the logistics are just a little bit more complex. It could be something that when the market goes back to normal and lenders are fighting for things, it could be something they introduce then when it doesn't matter so much to secure your rate. It didn't used to matter too much because there was always another rate available.
Is it? So it's a relatively new thing, isn't it? Because a relatively new need for it because of how it's all fluctuating all over the shop.
It's not bad to have 6 weeks to go back, because we do these pods and we probably don't revisit them until a bit like today, we talking about a subject and you're like, have we not covered that? We haven't, but it's all very similar and interlinked. Whereas we're going back to a subject which actually is really important, and we've almost given it like 6 weeks to say, right, let's see. And now we're talking about it again. Not much has changed. If anything, the demand to lock your rate in is just increased. But also banks, this is something that they're going to have to put and spend money in their IT systems, which will actually cost them money to do in the first place, but will result in them losing money. Not necessarily losing it, but if I can lock in my rate for 60 days, and 60 days ago, rates were a lot lower. So actually, that's the bank saying, we're going to give the customer a bit of a saving, because if you can lock in now, you can buy. So they're not going to be incentivized to do it.
But they are, I suppose, on the flip side of that is the guarantee in that they get your business.
Yeah.
That's the kicker for them, I suppose, isn't it?
This is it. So you've got the banks that are doing it, like Nationwide have got I think it's 60 days. What you could have expected is that they switched off that facility.
Yep.
And said, right, actually, I know this is a perk, but we're going to remove that because in 60 days,
anything could happen.
Exactly. Yeah. But like they haven't, which is great. But also, you would never have thought that 60 days would make such a difference in the mortgage market, and it really has. So it's been a really difficult period. We're real grim reapers. We're letting people know constantly payments are going up. The only good thing is, similar to kind of the beginning of this year, where rates are now starting to steady and drop a little bit, and I'm talking about mortgage rates, not Bank of England, completely different sport. But that's
I think we need a pod on that, because I don't
different sport. It is in the same context, but it's so different to how the media play it out because the media don't go into depth and explain it, do they? No. Martin Lewis does, credit to him. But where we need to be thinking is, we're now at a period where actually we're going to see a little bit of stability, and it's going to start reducing those fixed rates a little bit. That means that people who have already locked in, whose mortgage wasn't due for 6 months because they've locked in panicking, we're actually maybe going to have a good bit of news for them over the next couple of months.
So when you say that then, because last time I looked, it said that it was going to keep on steadily creeping up until, was it August next year or something like that? Is that just they put that punt in there? And
I don't know. No one would dare answer that question. But the base rate will come up, inflation will come down, and that's how it works. But mortgage rates are different to base rate. Okay, so mortgage rates, the base rate could be like it is now, and mortgage rates are almost a prediction of the future. Because if you imagine, they're selling you a product for 5 years, 60 months of payments at this amount. So it's not all just about today's rates. It's, is this going to be beneficial, or are we going to make a profit in the future? Also, they charge fees and things like that. So it's very complex, but the problem is that the facts that they're using to be able to produce these rates and data are inconsistent and also vulnerable to reacting to the media and the markets. So it's not unusual for an economist to change his complete outlook the next day.
Yeah, see, that's
like the weather, isn't it? Like you look at the weather today, and we know that it's going to rain at 4 o'clock tomorrow, and we've got a good prediction to have a barbecue at 5. So yeah, there we go. And then by the time it gets around to tomorrow, it'll be 6. It's never right, is it? And that's proven data over many years. That's almost like scientific data.
But eventually, it has got to come down. Eventually, it does have to drop a bit for people to cope.
Yeah, I mean, and I say this on a personal, like when I'm getting my mortgage now, I'm looking at a tracker, but I'm half expecting for that keep rising, maybe for another 6 months. But it will come down in the future, is my opinion. I'm entitled to that, but I can sleep at night knowing that I made that decision and call. If you came to me as a customer and said, "Would you advise this?" I'd have to show you the maths behind it to say,
educate a guess in effect, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And this is what I think, and this is what could happen. Here's some worst case scenarios. Is this affordable? Take the 5-year fixed. But it's painful to think that in 2 years' time, rates have dropped a bit, and you think I could have saved a fortune there. So it's a real difficult time. But what's important is that this myth we busted last time, it still exists. Your rate is not secured because you've got.
Just before we move on from that, it's important as well. I think it was Martin Lewis that had come out and said it a couple of weeks ago, and he'd said that it's not that these are abnormally high rates and stuff. It's that we've had it too good for too long in the past, which benefited.
It would be nice to settle down at about 4%, because then you're making big chunks off your mortgage payment.
And what we're currently at, roughly
sat at 6%. Right. As an average, you're paying so little off your mortgage. It's painful, you know. And people work hard to save for these deposits by property, and it's a shame. But like you say, we've had 10 years of the sun shining. But hopefully this isn't a dark cloud forever. It's going to be, we're going to see some stability. That's what we're not after rates coming down. We're after them reducing to a level that we can afford. And I think 4% is reasonable to expect in the next 2 years. That's my opinion. And as a mortgage advisor, to be scared to say that, nuts, because who else can say
exactly.
You know?
And what was it at when it was in the halcyon days a couple of years ago? What was it?
Well, I've got a 1.19%.
Right. And is that fixed? Is that a fixed?
It was fixed till it is fixed till May next year. And now it would be a hell of a lot per month expensive. You know,
it's madness, isn't it?
It is crazy, but the key is that just because you've got a rate, and you know what, we have many customers this month especially who came back to us because it's that time of year where school is crazy. That's what got in the way, wasn't it? It was like school. We had players, we had sports.
Of course, everything.
And everyone is kind of hooked up on that. Then they get the time off. Then they go away with the kids, and then they came back. Oh, sorry that we haven't got the paperwork to you. Can you let me know the list that I need to send you again? They send the docs in. And then we give them the bad news, the rate's gone up even further. So they were already disappointed 4 weeks ago. And they are in disbelief, but every single one of our emails and calls, we tell them this isn't secured. Not that it's going to happen. It's not.
No, it could happen. I mean, it's like...
Yeah, and sadly, like, they've already had negative news. That little extra warning we've given them just didn't go in. They were already, like, almost stunned that they'd had that hike. So...
it's kind of a bit of a gamble, isn't it? Either way, I suppose. But you've got to go with the most educated gamble, I suppose, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but we had an application on I want to say Wednesday. Spoke to the customer on Tuesday night. Wednesday morning it went in the middle of submitting 2 applications for this customer, buy-to-lets. Very similar scenarios, but one application can be done and then the next one's done afterwards. You can't do 2 at once. The rates changed. And that was just, well, for us on a compliance side, nightmare, because we've got to go back in and research it, which then slows the process down. But there was a change in that space of 60 minutes to their rates on their system.
And was it is it much, or is it just, does it not matter?
To be honest, in this, it might have even went down, but that's just how reactive the banks are and how often they're changing. Nationwide this week knocked their rates down by 0.5%.
Is that good? Yeah.
Bear in mind, this is what I mean. We'll have another pod on it.
Yeah.
I think Faz is coming up at the end of the month. Be good to get his take on it with his experience and things like that. He's very big on swap rates, and you can explain that because you've not heard that terminology before.
Yeah.
But base rate went up last week. Media shout about it. Nationwide put rates down by 0.5%. That already confuses things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Media's done this. Banks have put the rates down. We don't get it. Everyone else who's not in the market and not qualified doesn't get it, unless you have a hobby in interest rates and markets and things like that. So it'd be interesting to explain that.
Yeah, it'd be good. Definitely.
But
moving on.
Today's myth, and this is something people used to ask us when rates were low, and are now asking us when rates are high. When rates are kind of mediocre, for example, 4%, people are more inclined to take a longer term fix because they just think, you know what,
it's all right.
This is a happy medium. I'm going to take this because it could go down, but I'm happy that it's this price. And if it goes up, I've made a saving. So when we rewind to how your mum and dad did their mortgages, a lot of them would take term fixed. Yeah, there's disadvantages to that. There's also advantages, but
so would that be a long term fix?
Yeah. You can get 35-year term fixed. So what we're saying is, when we're having a conversation with customers, we're busting this myth instantly because they presume, quite rightly so, that they're in it alone. And what we get a lot.
We haven't said what the myth is yet.
I'm going to say it now. Once we get this question, and it's the same. It's once we get this mortgage.
Yes.
Are we on our own? Or once we get this mortgage, we're on our own. Okay.
Right.
So they read the paperwork. Right. Once we get this mortgage, you're on your own.
Yeah.
They read the paperwork, which says for the next 60 months your rate is this. Okay. But then it jumps up to your variable rate. Whereas if you think the 6% is high, 9% is a lot higher. So it jumps up from, let's say, £600 to £900. That, because it's so high, they're asking that question. What happens? What happens next? Are we on our own? What do we do? This is the myth we're busting, because a lot of people take a mortgage and think that's it. And they worry about the now. I've got a 2-year fix, that will do. I'm not bothered about the future, because they hope and everything's going to be...
Yeah, of course.
Everything's going to be kind of comfortable, affordable. They might get a pay rise. But never now more than ever, they're looking at that paperwork and going, will you be there to help us if that happens? They say this when they're low because it'll 1%, but it could jump up to 5%, and that's a huge jump.
Yeah.
Which is what we're facing. And it's just it's not necessarily a question that you answer in detail because you're talking about 5 years' time. But it's a question that you say, look, we're here for you. And
so when you say you're here for them, what does that entail? Is that as in you're there whenever they need to find out if they can change, what their options are?
Well, 3 things. You've got the first one, which I would say is we've got to be there. Consumer Duty says we've got to be there. We've got to be in touch with our customers. We're not getting them a mortgage into debt and leaving them on their own. Okay?
So when you say you've got to be in touch with them, is that like little follow-ups? Or?
Yeah, just letting them know. Basically, it's like almost like posting your business card again to your customer to say, just a reminder, these are our details. If you need us for anything, let us know. An anniversary, a year, normally something has happened, whether it's a pay rise, whether it's a birth, whether it's death, whether it's whatever. then things have changed, and it might just be that they need some reassurance. Or if you're like me, I love my paperwork, and I update my paperwork. If I've got my annual mortgage statement coming out, I like to, and it might just be they need the lender's details to give them a call because they want to make an overpayment, they want to do whatever. So that's one, is we've got to do it.
So do you contact them then?
We would just make our presence known to them, that we are here, and if they need us and they want to chat.
And when would you do that? How far?
Probably annually. We do it. We've got a monthly newsletter which we actually do every 2 months.
It's a nice looking newsletter as well. If anyone can get their hands on it, it's very, very
and
good.
That's from feedback. And the way the market is, month to month. By the time we were writing it, things were changing. So what we can do is reflect on the last 2 months and hopefully give an idea of what we expect over the next couple. In that newsletter, that itself goes out to existing customers. That is a reminder. It's touching base with the customer. If they need us, we're here. But also on their annual review, when it comes to the year anniversary of when they took out the mortgage, we would just touch base with them like normal to say, look, we're here.
And is that in form of like an email rather than, or would you ring them, or is it just vary?
Probably just either by like a very cut and paste generic. It's been a year since. But also they get the involvement of their own lender. We'll send out their mortgage statement. It's just kind of, like I said, just saying this is our details. You do forget about who your mortgage advisor is too, right? Like you kind of, you will. So we're just staying in touch. So there's the first one, is we've got to. The second is we're a business, and by keeping in touch with you, then obviously we want you to remain as a customer. If you market like us, then we're out there to collect customers, and we will. By no fault of our own, we will take business from other companies because we'll advertise and people will go, oh, I'll take the details.
Yeah, of course.
Because I've lost mine. And if that's why keeping in touch with your clients right now is probably the thing that's going to save your company in the future. And then in the third sense of the question is you don't know when a customer needs that support. So not only is it just reminding them you're there because of your reasons to say we're here, you don't know if people's heads in the sand with other bits and bobs. So I think sometimes that email is just there for like kind of reassurance them. And I suppose like just a reminder that like, look, we're here. You've already used us for our services. If you need us, get us again. Not just to say, look, we're here. There's our contact details. It's like actually come and speak to us. So we do that kind of marketing where we'll put out advice and tips. We'll offer financial reviews for them. At the end of the day, they're our customers.
And the website now, you've got your blogs and vlogs.
And if we've got a customer 3 years ago, we can point them to all these new resources, and they might find that useful, they might not. So we might have a customer that's absolutely laughing because they've got a 10-year fixed and they're going to miss all of this turmoil, but they still might want to read up on it and to be educated. So for all we're not technically going to touch base with them for 10 years properly, i.e. have another appointment, it's nice for them to be able to be in. I
suppose as well, from a marketing point of view, you can advertise stuff such as buy to let, someone's comfortable in the house, they've accrued some money, and insurances.
No one goes through a 5-year period without something in their life being quite monumental, whether it be a death, a birth, a really big pay rise or a change of jobs, change of circumstances to self-employed. Loads of things can happen. And
be the dream for me, that stability. But it's true though, isn't it? It's like you say, you don't know what's around the corner, do you? You don't know.
When it's amazing. You could do these little challenges and stuff where you look back on the last 5 years and you challenge yourself to like think of 10 things that happened, and you can think of 50 things. So it's just these last 5 years, I think, have been like non-stop horrific. We haven't had a break from something. So now, like we jokingly say, like that we're mortgage therapists as well as mortgage advisors, but we are, and we're I wouldn't even say we're myth busting, but there's so many people talking about mortgages who aren't qualified right now, whether it be online and influencers, or whether it just be customers speaking to other customers, friends.
Or word of mouth, and it's easy for things to spread, isn't it? As well, Chinese whispers in effect.
Yeah. So like just because you're with Halifax, you could presume that your friend who's also with Halifax, who's now literally devastated that he's paying 200 quid a month more, you presume that your rate is also going to jump up because you're with Halifax, and
Yeah.
if he's struggling, I'm going to struggle. Well, actually, it couldn't be further from the truth, because Halifax is so bespoke to the individual customer that we don't even know what rate you're going to get until we're in there.
Right.
We go internally, and we could see you could be worse, you could be better, but it's not just because one fits all. And everyone is talking about their mortgages. So you know what it's like when you go.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
Everyone chips in with their 5 pence, and that's the problem, is that unless someone's had a good experience, they're never gonna really share that good experience. They'll always say, "Oh, I'm glad I locked in for 10 years," but that person in another dimension,
you don't know what you
went through a divorce or whatever, and then they'd have a penalty. And
I think it's human nature to kind of back up your decisions as well, isn't it? And people do. It's the whole social media generation, isn't it? Really, people post their best life on there, don't they? You know, so they'll be saying, "Oh yeah," it's the same with the worst of it. People jump on the bandwagon and they'll be like, "Oh well, I've got it worse than you," you know. And I think, as you say, a lot of it is hearsay. A lot of it is people who don't know what they're on about. That shout the loudest kind of thing.
But the sad thing is, like, and I don't blame them, because the media don't know what they're on about. The experts the media get on don't know what they're on about. Martin Lewis will stand up there and say, when prices were going through the roof, when electricity was just not playing the normal pattern, then he said he hasn't got a clue. He said he doesn't know. So when he was talking about price caps, what he thinks would happen, he wouldn't say he thinks this will happen. He said, I honestly don't know. What I hope is this. And that's what us as mortgage advisors, which is professionals, are doing. And that's the difficult part, is we can make a very well-educated, researched guess, but yet mortgages don't happen overnight. You don't buy a house overnight.
No.
So it could take you 6 months to sell your property, and then 6 months down the line, in your world, the mortgage rates have just shot up too much.
So
unaffordable.
Things don't happen overnight, apart from the rate changes, which happen by the hour.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So you're snookered in a way, aren't you? Because
so we, as you know, we built and designed our own what we call a CRM system called Mapplication, and it's stands for Mortgage and Protection Application. And we did it, or we started doing it in lockdown, because it was an excuse to get into the office and, you know, have some kind of routine. But it involved a lot of fiddliness and certainly a lot of trial and error. And originally we built it as a database holder of our client pipeline. So if someone's a client and we want to get them to the end of being a client, i.e. they've got a mortgage. And as we did that, we built it and built it and built it. And then we decided that it's just a pure coincidence, we decided to build a very good back end for it, is in terms of when the customer's completed, how do we look after that customer during a period where inactivity, that we're not using them as a customer, but we've got them. What information do we need? How do we communicate with them? What do we do? Is a customer needing more information 12 months out than a customer who's got 60 months before we speak to them again? And we build it like that. But then we've also got those customers that don't use us but might come back to us. What we've got now is a system that is kind of covering all areas that we have now experienced. Thankfully for this turmoil of the market, we've now got a system that's built, which is designed to look after every little customer in every area, whether it be a customer that's already with us, not just to see their mortgage go from A to B.
Yeah.
It's whilst there, is there a better rate available? We never used to do that. You didn't check halfway through a mortgage application to see. But we can do that now with our system. We can look in to see customers. We can speak to customers 7 months out. We can speak to customers 12 months out. We can speak to customers that are not using us. We've got customers that are like house hunting. And every month we'll touch base with them to say, if you'd like an update on your rates, let us know. And that's us saying to them, they might have gone up. We don't want to say they've gone up, panic. But you're house hunting for a month, 2 months, 3 months, because your property hasn't sold. So at the point of finding a new property that you're committing to, that rate could have gone up £100 a month, £200 a month. So we're inviting them by the use of our system
to have a conversation at least.
To say, look, it is worth having a conversation. And you could say that we're going to be inundated, snowed under, but yeah, in an ideal world, you have 2 appointments with a customer and we get them the keys. But in this world that we're in now, we're speaking to the customers lots and lots. whether it be via WhatsApp voice clips, or just reassuring them on an email, re-updating the research and sending it through. But the system allows us to do that.
So how does it allow you? When you say it allows you?
So if you think of the system as a kind of a bus stop, a road map, and what you've Mapplication. So you've got these different areas, but it's not just the areas. The areas link to another area. So
when you say areas, do you mean the stage that the customer's at?
So you're thinking about buying a house. You're in, let's call it, you're in this bucket. You're thinking about buying a house. So you need different communication methods and access to me than someone who's next week is going to get the keys, or someone who's going through the protection process. Maybe someone that's already an existing customer. We can leave you alone, but we still need you on that journey, that map, to be able to say, right, okay, you're 2 years out. You're still going to be worrying about these interest rates. 2 years is too quick. Within 18 months, we're going to be having a chat.
Yeah.
So it's almost to say that in an email, to say, look, we've got you. When the time comes, we're there.
So it's almost like it can be used as a marketing tool in effect as well, like not marketing, like an information.
Tool. It is. Anything's marketing. When you send out a newsletter, it's marketing. But it's free information as well. And we can target people. So we could decide to write something really relevant to now, but do we want to be sending that out to all of those customers that already have a mortgage that are absolutely safe for the next 5 years?
So you're pinpointing the ones that need it.
It's ideal. It's a bit like turning on Sky News, and before the presenter comes on, you get to choose if you want to be scaremongered or not. So why would I send out a reassurance, it's a rocky market, don't worry, to a customer that's got a 5-year fix? So we can tailor the system around that to be able to say, right, okay, we're not going to target you, we're not going to email this to you because it's too negative and you don't need to know. That's the world we live in. But also at the front end, it allows us not to pressure a customer, bombard a customer, like almost like cold call, because you've got a duty of care when a customer comes knocking on the door, can have a mortgage. But if they want the mortgage, they can have it. But we can use our system to email, to text. When a customer has got that research, we just want to know they've got it and that we're here if they need them. It's up to them if they come back to us. We don't want to be bombarding them. So we can keep them in a separate bucket to those customers that are going through the process, that want us to remind them every day to get a payslip, bank statement and things like that. Also for workload in terms of the staff, it's like a collective measure. So from the start to finish of a journey, if we built in Barry the customer, from the start to the finish, you'll have everyone's involvement putting in their 5 pence to your profile, and by the end of it, it's built. Rather than a data entry, someone just sat there typing in things about someone they don't know.
Typing up notes in effect rather than that.
Yeah, so like Laura will add her bits about the lender, about the valuation date, about the offer expiry. At the beginning, Carla's going to put in all the contact details, contact preferences, any vulnerabilities. Are there an existing customer? Then the advisor's going to put in there actually the bread and butter, the rates, where we're at. Then Laura's going to build the file back and collect documents. We're going to attach our voice clips that we do. We've got voice clips I'm mad about. Not just sending to people. Voice clips we use a bit like in the olden days.
Almost like dictating.
We used to have a dictaphone in the car that I got someone else to use while I was driving. I don't know, are they illegal? I don't know. But it was always, things popped up in your head and you need to get it down and record it. So a voice clip in the system is, I've had this appointment with Barry 6 months ago and he's gone away house hunt, thought I'm not buying yet. Now he's come back. Who's Barry? You look at your handwriting, you look at the sheet, and at the end of the day, it's just employment details and addresses and income. You need that voice clip to be like, good chat with Barry. Sadly, he's a Mackham. We went through all of this. Here's what we're going to do. But actually, Barry's also self-employed. He's got a business. He's got 4 kids. The best time to contact him is 8 o'clock.
So you're getting a background and a personal. It's like, almost like a soft portfolio in effect.
Yeah, like soft facts. We've got everything within our and it, because it's remote and on a mobile as well. I'm able to kind of put in my input to it and task people off. So it's got like next chase dates, flag dates. It also interlinks with staff. And then when it comes to figures for analysis side, like as a business owner, you want to know how you do and how many new inquiries you've had this week. It just gives you everything.
And me breaking the fourth wall here and spoiling the illusion that I don't know what the app is, obviously.
Yeah.
I do the build part of it at the minute. It's good that it at every stage there's an ownership element to it, which is really good that that say for instance, if it was protection, Joe would be, you would imagine Joe would be the owner of that. So it's not only has it got that, it's got sort of a notes field that lets you update any sort of what would you call it, contact with the customer. So you're not getting that whole thing of someone ringing up and saying, "Oh, we know that you need to sort X, Y, and Z," and you saying, "Well, someone rang me about that last week." Do you know what I mean? It's kind of.
But the traffic light system's great because I think when we were trying to build it with you, we were trying to make it automated. So if I entered a note 7 days later, it would flag up red and we'd have to speak to them again or revisit. But like everyone is different. I mean, you, for example, you're going on holiday. We're dealing with you live as an inquiry.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're going to put that back until 2 weeks because so that helps us and it doesn't pester you. But also the system for compliance side, which is the boring bit in the background, but actually the most important bit from our point of view is doing our job right and recording that we are.
So compliance
is kind of doing your job right. Yeah, it's documentation, record keeping, regulation, but it's also to protect the customer that we're doing the right job. And we've got a system built into the system without creating too many. There's only one entry and it's a customer. And what I mean by that the customer then expands off into all these different areas, whether it be sat in the building and contents bucket, the protection bucket. Probably need a better word than bucket, but
it's back to the builder's analogy, isn't it?
Isn't it? So we've got that customer has a traffic light system for compliance because it needs to be done within a certain time period.
Okay.
It's also got when the customer needs to be maybe contacted because it's been 3 weeks and we haven't even said anything to them because it's gone quiet. It'll have gone quiet for a reason. Solicitors will be doing their job, but it's nice to know, hi, here's your update. There isn't one. No update. An update saying there's no update is just as good, I think, because the customer's going to think it's gone quiet.
Yeah.
Then it'll be just a coincidence that when they ring you, that you'll be on the back foot and thinking, actually, I don't know, I'll go and get you an update. And it still isn't one. So rather than that, we use that to
proactively get.
You can't beat every customer. Some will speak to us every day. Some will speak to us once through the whole application. And that's because they're content. Document storage, the little handwriting scribbles that we do at the front, it's all on there. Click of a button. So when it comes through, and this is going back to the first point of a customer saying to me, so in 5 years' time, will you be there for us? Well, of course we will. Like for those 3 points, we have to be. We want to be. And we're a business. And that's what we're doing right, is the system does it for us. So even, because I couldn't speak to 2,250 customers every single time without needing to know a lot more about it. So, I mean, it's kind of the scary part of the job is you've got so-and-so coming through for an appointment last night, which you spoke to 2 years ago, and you spoke to 2 years before that, and you still need to look at all that data to go, ex-Royal Air Force, now working for whoever, and this is what he's doing, 2 children, and we can have that conversation. So we bring up all the old records. Now, that might seem simple, but a record of a voice clip from 2 years ago and a handwritten fact find, that makes the customer bespoke and individual, because it's not just
ticking a box on there to say age, blah blah blah.
And also we can do our research from the system, so we can use the information on there, i.e. how much when we finish that application, it goes to completion, we'll automatically put in the system how much the mortgage is going to be in 2 or 5 or whenever the next milestone point is. And it means that the guys, our power planners, can prepare our appointments for us so that we've got the right information. It'd be typical that a customer's paid off 20 grand and it won't add up, but do you know what? It will. So what I'm saying is, this system, we didn't need pre-COVID.
Why is that?
It just kind of happened. Yes, we've got better and we've got bigger, but there's so many different things we do today that we never did pre-COVID for the customer. lots and lots of different bits of research, constant updating of the research during the progress, and also making sure they understand where we are.
And is that
remortgage has never been more important. Like, people are sweating and worrying about their remortgage point coming up.
So is that more to do with the rates and stuff, or do you think it is COVID that's kicked that?
I think what it is, it's the rates has kicked it, definitely, but it's in the media, it's in your face, so everyone knows. Like, when I speak to people that I'm just meeting for the first time, and they say, like, what do you do? And I say, mortgage advisor. Oof is the answer. They know you've got a stressful job, but the stress isn't because we're busy, or because the market's upside down. It's because we're responsible for all our customers. So if I didn't have this system right now, we'd be making half the money, and the staff would be 3 times, I'd say productive isn't the word, 3 times run off their feet.
And the customer wouldn't be getting a good end product.
Let's be honest, this system is designed from probably two years in the making. And how many times have we had to chop and change and tweak things because it wasn't just perfect.
Yeah.
It needed something that was just really important to save us a day
Oh,
or two.
it's been.
I think we've saved physical money, and we've done we've cut people's workloads down to an hour rather than a 2-day task by just having the system pull through.
It's been a big slog to get it where it's at.
Before that, we had a physical process which did work still, but with remote working, you could literally work anywhere with this system. Submit a mortgage application for a customer, update them, get them the keys, and we could all be in different corners of the world.
And you do, obviously the world's changed, hasn't it? Home working, flexible working is a lot more prevalent since the COVID layoff.
Yeah.
And as you say, the world's changed. Luckily, you used the time productively, in effect, to get.
So 5 years ago, Paddy said he was going to look after you in 5 years' time when your mortgage came to an end. And what if the rates are high? Don't worry, we've got you, and we'll be there to support you. We know this customer inside out, not because we've got great memories, because the information we pull is the key, and it's the key information that we need for the next step of the process. But all the other soft facts and the voice clips and the imagery and the way that the notes are put on the system, it just shows the customer that we know them. Because you know what the FCA want? You to know your customer. It's one of their 3 priorities. Is know your customer. And
so is that from basically so you can provide the best service, so you can.
But do you remember the old?
Tailor-made.
It wasn't even the old days. When we had half this office, a quarter of this office, I used to have a filing system. I don't know if you ever saw it, and it was date ordered, and a customer was a file.
A physical
file that you needed to put in front of you. Until you opened that file, you knew nothing about the customer. That customer that is coming up for 7 months from their fixed rate period ending has already been assigned in someone's ownership for them to just touch base. Hi, I'm Carla. I'm new to the company. I wasn't here last time, but just to let you know, in a month's time, I'm going to be giving you a call just to get you booked in with an advisor. If you don't need us, that's absolutely fine, but we don't want you worrying. We're here when you need us. Also, let's have a quick, here's our latest newsletter. Like that, to me, is customer service. But the system does that because each Monday, them new bank of customers that have dropped in, because it's all date stamped and it just comes through. We used to have to, Laura used to come at a weekend, go through that green filing cabinet, work through all this paper and handwriting.
Jiggle it around too.
And put it on advisors' desks. So you'd walk into green files. And that takes
But then you wake up Monday morning, you've got a sniffle. I'm not going to make it into
file's
work.
not on my desk.
I'm not going to make it into work. Can someone ring us with all the details? Blah blah blah. I'm going to still be working. But
I don't know how we did it, but what I do.
Well, the world was like that, wasn't it?
Do you know what though? I do know how we did it because we worked bloody hard, and I'd say it's smarter, not harder, isn't it? But we didn't have time to get smarter. We just had to work harder because we were rammed. We were absolutely chocker. Then COVID hit, and it was time off. And honestly, there's so many companies out there that just sat and waited till it came back, and they'll struggle because now more than ever, it's not about rate because rates are shit. It's about customer service. It's about empathy, and we're able to do that because we've got 40 to 50 customers dropping in each month that we need to revisit for these remortgages. We're able to delegate that evenly, which doesn't swamp the advisor's diaries. we're able to see it. I mean, this is a podcast without visuals. We're not Joe Rogan here. But if I was to show you, I can show you the way the system is aligned, and I can plan, if needed, that between 120 months and 240 months, I'm going to have to employ 3 advisors, because looking at the amount of customers that we're going to have, existing customers come through for a remortgage, we're going to struggle now with our current workload when they come through.
So that's obviously it's benefiting the customer because you're thinking ahead of their needs. You're looking at who's going to be dropping into the bucket, but also it's benefiting you because you can think, this is going to get busier and busier. I need to get so and so.
And if you think, like, so you've got 6 months. No, we used to do a remortgage probably 6 weeks before. Customers just laid back, rates are good, we'll just do it whenever. Now they're coming to us 6 months before, but each month they're hoping they get a better rate. So we've kind of got to do that business 6 times. It might be to tell them that, look, rates have actually gone up, but you've got your rates secured. And we've got to revisit that customer and do that. Now, if you had to do that with a paper-based file, what I mean is those files that were put on your desk by Laura, 4 new ones today, would be sat alongside those 250 live in your pipeline, whereas they're on the system. But I think if you beat the customer to it by the system, and we've got a 6-day flag on Mr. Smith, because you can tell he's worried, he's wanting to know. We know Nationwide are changing the rates. We'll flag it 6 days. Carla will put it in the diary. Bobby, the power planner, will jump on, do her bits and bobs in the diary. Chris sends an email. Jobs are good in. They were just about to pick up the phone to say, don't split. We've got to it.
You've done it.
But the system being a power planner itself, that's what the system is. A power planner, it's support, it's customer service. Now, I know you can say, well, that's what a CRM's for. No, a CRM is a database for customers. What the mortgage and protection application is, the application is purely designed around a mortgage advisor. I challenge anybody to go and find one. A mortgage advice, just mortgage CRM. Challenge anyone. And I can say that because you know how much I was quoted back in the day to build this system. But even then, that quote would have been triple.
But I also know that it's been a pain in the ass to do from my point. No, just like, as in, not a pain in the ass to get my head around. I've had to think like a mortgage advisor without being a mortgage advisor, because I've had to kind of learn the basics of what you lot do. Fair enough, I'm not doing, not doing the advising side.
You ask very good questions. Why do you need that?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, Barry, it's so important. That little thing there, but I've never heard you made me go back and explain that to you.
But this is me in a nutshell. Like I'd kind of think, it's a massive thing that you've got where renewals, where you like to see exactly where people are in renewals when their mortgage is coming up, their fixed term, whatever. I get it, totally get it, but you've got it separated into like different blocks. Is it about 6 different blocks, or 6 or 8 different blocks of timescales? So from like 3 years down to whatever, half years.
And right now we could name them instead of, I think we've got like 0 to...
we've got 0 to 180 days.
80 days, which is the last 6 months. Then we've got 180 to, I think it's, 180 to 192, because we're catching the 7 months. And then we've got we could call them absolutely sleeping like a baby, losing a little bit of sleep, losing loads of sleep, shitting themselves, because that's how we're treating them. So we need to be contacting those ones that may be losing loads of sleep and giving them a ring, drop them a voice clip, letting them know we're here. And honestly, for them to do that, that would take the relief off, and you'll have a little bit to know that we're going to look after
you. But you were pushing that as being a big thing, and from my layman's point of view, I kind of thought, well, if it was me and my mortgage was coming to an end, I'd contact you. So why are you needing to contact me?
I think what this is doing is where...
It's a proactive approach, isn't it? It's giving you...
If you were panicking right now, you'd be on the phone to your lender that you're with already, and you'd probably lock into a deal, right? Which isn't a bad thing, but that lender will not ring you up and say there's a better rate available. No. So what we're doing is we're beating the customer to it. So when the lender does say, look, come and lock in with us, it's all right, Paddy's got us covered. And again, I wouldn't say it's a fluke. It was just, I like to be organised. I love a spreadsheet. And sadly, a spreadsheet is outdated. Pretty much what you've built all ends up it revolves around a spreadsheet, but it's an interface.
Well, it's data, isn't
It's
it?
an
It's
interface.
data,
It is, yeah. But we used to live off a spreadsheet. We lived off a finance system. We lived off trays. So the buckets on the system, physical trays, which took up a hell of a lot of space in the office. And my God, paper can go missing. When I say it goes missing, it goes into the wrong tray.
Yeah.
And it sits there. We used to wait and a customer would come back and say, can I have that chat? Yeah, no worries. But I just wonder, and Laura will have a better idea of this, how many at the end, 2 months later, that were due in January 2020, that actually, January 2020, yeah, that never got back to us because they'd already gone elsewhere. Whereas now, we're hitting them before they could go elsewhere, which is fine if they want to say, we don't want to use you anymore. My sister-in-law is now a mortgage advisor. Absolutely fine. There you go. But we can also record that data. Analysis, graphs, we can see how the guys are doing. Also, Joe, who runs the protection department, can access the mortgage stuff, the voice clips. We can all, without even speaking to each other, do this job. Almost makes the job 24 hours as well.
Yeah.
Because you go back to the voice clip. I mean, I pulled Laura up on this morning. Just something when I'm filling in a suitability report, we had a giggle. I think I called her naughty because she hadn't listened to the voice clip because she knew the customer inside out.
Right.
But within the voice clip was something that I needed in my suitability report. And I remembered it because I listened to it. And it's something I can't say, but it's a soft fact that I'd like to mention when I'm writing why I made that advice. Because generally that's why I made a decision to take a 2 and a 5.
Yeah.
But it was in the voice clip. But I was writing a document that 6 weeks ago we submitted the mortgage for, say, or gave the advice. We could just write what we wanted, but I was very personable. But that was from the system. I didn't go and listen to a voice clip that I found on OneDrive. I went under the system, pressed the button whilst typing into the system.
So it's almost like a little silo. Each customer is a little silo, is it? Where you've got all the personal information. It's got it flags up certain things about them that you might need to know. It tells you when they were contacted. It tells you, obviously, the mortgage once it's sorted. It tells you all that. So it's got everything contained for each separate customer.
And do you know the best thing about it is we're talking about renewals because the myth is you're on your own. We don't really need to tell any customer that we've got this system because they can tell.
Yeah.
Because the process when they start, hi, nice to meet you, can I have a mortgage? You can tell by the way we look after a customer and take them through that journey that they think they know what they're doing. They are very organized behind the scenes. We joke and say it's a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
It's not, but it's a process.
Well, digitally it is, I suppose, isn't it?
It is. And when it comes out, they are not going to be worried in the slightest that information there won't roll forward. We don't start again. The customer comes back. We even have a purge. We purge data. That doesn't matter. So that'll be day and time of the appointment. It may be the time and day to contact the customer. Because when we contact you in the future, you're just going to get an email. You're going to get it'll purge data that can change. And that's quite important because the way the system gets pulled through, a next chase date would get pulled through as well. So you're thinking, I've got a load of red traffic lights.
Yeah.
The date's 2020, yet we're now in 23. All right, okay. So we purge that data.
So it blanks it. It supersedes it when they come back round.
It resets it, yeah. It resets it to the point of ready to go again, but the data of the customer's in there.
That was a big job. I remember that messing around with the purge, and that was quite a tough one to get my head around, but a big thing.
It just stops things. So even X-Plan done, like that means nothing to anybody.
No.
But that's a slap on the wrist from the regulator if we haven't done it in time.
Okay.
And it's one of the biggest traffic lights on the system, I think.
And when you just say, if anyone's in doubt, what you mean by traffic light is, if it's green, you don't need to worry about it. If it's orange, it's coming up. If it's red, it needs doing now.
Yeah, so if you've got no reds and you've got time left of the day, you can have a look at your ambers and get ahead of yourself. Greens don't need to.
So it's almost like a productivity tool as well for yourselves.
Yeah, and I think for the last 6 months, I've been exhausting my wish list.
Yep.
There isn't a single wish I would want to do it.
It's been a big
There's
wish
certain
list.
things that you could, from an outsider, if we were to market this and want to give it to our competitors, that they may say, oh, it'd be good if we could do this. But I think some things need to be different, separate. I think it's there for the journey of the customer, and to make everyone's life easier. But I think integration to calendars and diaries and things like that isn't necessary. I like that we have that run separately, because it encourages the advisor to each day manage their own diary. We revisit diaries. But again, also that you don't need to reinvent something that already exists.
No.
I love calendars. We use it to live off. But when it comes to what we've built as a system for a mortgage company, and more importantly, the protection side, I mean, we've replicated the service on the mortgage side with the protection side. And that is so important because it's there. It's black and white. We know exactly what a customer's got. We know exactly what they didn't take. We've got tick boxes for did they take life, kick, income protection. So not that we would want to market them to say you didn't take this, but as a customer service point of view, we can highlight it when we're doing our compliance documents. We can say just to highlight that you never took this when we're talking.
We've said on previous episodes that it's your obligation to tell the customer.
This is what you should be taking, but if you don't want it, thanks very much. But in terms of what we've built, there's nothing left unturned. So all you need to worry about is giving the advice. The customer is there in your lap, ready to go. And in terms of the customer's experience, that myth's busted wide open because they're not on their own. The system's looking after them.
Yeah.
The people who use the system are the ones that's going to be able to add that personal human customer service.
And the good thing with it being a mobile app in effect is that you could be on holiday. Well, not on holiday, but you could be out somewhere. Your kids' sports day. I ring you really panicky. I'm sure my mortgage is due. I'm sure my mortgage is due now. You can, if you want to, literally open your phone, have a look on it. And
I had one last night. I mean, I could have. I was, what was yesterday? Something. We were in the middle of something. But I was able to pass that message on and get the answer back to the customer without me even interacting with the customer. So it was a message. I was able to pass that on to my staff. My staff looked in, done.
So could I, in effect, if I rang you about something, it wasn't your job to do, you were going to pass it on to Alice, say. So could you change it so she's the owner of my job and put a voice clip on there saying, right, Alice, I've given this to you because blah, blah, blah.
Chris is going on holiday for 2 weeks today. So his whole pipeline, he'll have updated where he's at and assigned. And also, more importantly, is traffic lights. So the ones that go red is when the customer needed to respond by to get the pay slip in to secure the rate. I don't know. But yeah, it makes him going away
a lot easier than it used to be. All it takes is to put something somewhere on.
A CRM would be 75% good enough. Yeah. And the other 25 you would do by manual labor. That's still a lot better than we were previously. I would say we had a bespoke database, which to be honest, if I wanted to build this system, I'd have done it in the same timescales. We kind of started with chalk, right? This is where we're going to put this, this is what we want. And then we just built a digital platform that did it. But also it's mortgage related. Every system I looked at was basically either an American estate agency, real estate, which combines the estate agency and solicitors. There was nothing for a mortgage. I'm like, well, there's so many out there. Back end, I agree. Quilter have us covered. So from compliance point of view, from me getting paid off the lenders, from all of that type of stuff, the source and the mortgage products, I don't want that as part of my database. What I'm looking for is the front end customer experience, and I suppose the back end customer management.
But as a business as well, you need to know what you're making. You need to know where you're up to. You need to know where you've come from. You know what I mean? So that does all of that. It's got all of your analysis that you need.
You know fine well that I could extend this to 100 advisors, and all you would need to do is add 100 names. Everything else. So everyone could log into this and we could work, and then we've still got the back office staff which are in the building doing the work, and we could just keep expanding this. There's no extension. You don't need to make any extra columns. This system can cope with the volume, but that one customer that needs that service, that's what matters. And when it comes through to them, we can research their name and every other customer disappears.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just in their own
Focus
place
on them.
and off we go. I also like there's loads of features. It's the way that you can edit shorthand, so you don't need to go into the customer and scroll through all the information. And if
So you can literally change someone
what
from...
I mean by that is when they're in, and this is what you couldn't have as a physical paper-based filing system. When they are in house hunting, ready to go, okay, what we really need to know there is, because they've had a decision in principle to house hunt, when their DIP expires, okay, who the lender is, their contact details, and a little note to say what the latest update was. And then maybe the next chase date, because they've told us to bugger off for 3 months. Don't pester us again. That's all I need to know. And that's in that bucket. In the next bucket, which says documents outstanding, it doesn't mention any of that because we don't need that anymore. But yet it's built in and it's been added to the customer pile. Yeah. So if we moved it back to house hunting because they lost out on the property, that information goes back in. And you only see as a view, but when you pick up that file to look for the DIP expiry date, you've got to sift through it. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's relevant. I mean,
it's standardized as well. You know where to look for.
Does that mean that we as a human can't put it in the wrong part of the system? Absolutely. But guess what? We all have our ownership. And if I accidentally put Mr. Smith in Laura's X-Plan to do, one should hit the roof, but it would stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have all the correct information behind it, and she'd see it and she'd be like, well, that shouldn't be there. A quick note, and what you've done, because we offer a lot of IT support with this, and that comes via you. You can just go into the system and you can look at instances, can't you?
Yeah.
And reverse.
Yeah, look at the background data. Yeah.
Found what happened and where that came from, which is good because we don't want the user to be able to do that.
No.
We want the IT support to be able to do it. And that itself is built into the system. So
I think it's
when you go on holiday, don't you?
Yeah.
I can load jobs on anything urgent we can cope with, but I can load a job on for you via your system. Again with a voice clip.
Yep.
Again with a little sketch.
Yeah.
And I can just leave you to it. Instead of interrupting your day, we can do that.
Yeah, that's for like, so sort of for the technical support side, I know this is boring to people, but if there's something that is buggy or something you think, as you always have these brain waves and it's always at the wrong time that you'll be sending me a voice note saying, oh, we need the system to do this, this would be brilliant. You can literally do that through the system that then informs me through an email that you've put a support issue on there, which is, it's kind of the system updating itself through me, if you see what I mean.
And we get that when a mortgage completes, it's great because I get as the boss, I get an email to say, and it's nice because I am out of touch because my mates have used me all their life.
Yeah.
Now I've got staff doing it for us.
Yeah.
So
you bump into them in the pub.
But I've had that email to say mortgage is completed.
And it's not just that, is it, as well? It can be set up to notify you of stuff like that, or there's a lot of things for like your staff welfare in there as well. You've got holidays, plan your staff holidays and things in there. So you've got you sort of your shared calendar in there. You've got another one which does relate to the customer, which I think it was a good addition to have in there, is a record of your staff training. You know how well versed they are in certain things. So you've got that. You've got training. You've got mandatory things that you need to show. Is it the FCA or you need to show them that you?
One of the things which is coming out because you built this about a year ago is we've got the marketing side. So when everyone sees my Facebook post, even for this podcast when I share it, to do it, there's a lot that goes into it in the background. Because the FCA want to make sure if it's an advert, it's genuine and it's the way it should be, and it's got the right warnings on. We've put every single bit of material that we've got, socially, imagery, into this system. And after a year, guess what that does? Flags up, goes red. And
why is that? Why after a year?
Because we've got to
needs to be resubmitted.
Resubmitted to financial promotions.
So, for instance, you're wanting to put an advert out there saying we offer this or we can help you.
Going back to the myth, is your mortgage coming to the end in April 2024?
Yeah.
If so, get in touch. That has to be approved and authorised as a promotion. Yeah.
So you're not. Is this back to like your PPI things where you're not selling something that's?
No, I mean,
is it, or is
just,
it just
it's just got to be? they've got to say that that's a fair and I suppose right promotion.
Yeah. So basically, you're getting that regulated.
Like
You're getting the
if I
go
was to
ahead.
put something out there that said panic stations, you're going to be screwed. Your mortgage is going up millions. If you don't get in touch with us, everyone's going to
Yeah.
die.
So scaremongering people in.
Yeah.
That
They
would go
would-
away for regulation.
And then knock it back.
They'd knock it back and say,
But because of the way we live and the times, anything I get approved needs reapproving every year.
Okay.
And this system, flags it up, and certain members of my staff who look after that side of the system would then resubmit that for financial promotions.
so you're going to know that this advert that you've done, that not scaremongering, obviously, but the one that you've had passed, you know that that's coming up for revalidation. So you can then basically send it again.
It takes 5 seconds to do, and that's the same for this is for customers, but what it boils down to, and one of the parts of the system I like is we built in a gifts and hospitality register, which we need anyway. Yeah, but I was sick of having 10,000 spreadsheets. I wanted a system, and for a mortgage advice process, CRM, it's all good looking after the customer.
Yeah.
But the advisor needs to be there to look after the customer. And if the advisor's doing the things right, he'll be okay. Or she'll be okay. But if I'm giving a gift, like that nice PJS playing cards poster.
Graphic, yeah.
If I was to put that on social media and say, this is lovely, someone's giving us that and it costs £51 as opposed to £50, then I would have to put that on a register to say I'd receive a gift, like a bribe.
Yeah, of course,
It's a gift. What it is, on what you built in the system is a pretty picture. I upload the picture. I say if it's been approved, what it is, the value. The fact that I do that on a system that I can show the FCA if they came knocking, that we do it that much detail for that little of a thing, because it is BS. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous. But if that was an Aston Martin, different story. Hopefully they'd still approve it.
Maybe.
And that just shows that we're doing it right, and that's supporting the advisor to be able to be there for the clients, because once we get you a mortgage, are we on our own? Well, you are if the company goes bust because we've been stricken off for doing things wrong.
Doing things wrong.
So
it's compliance, that you call that compliance, that side of it.
I would say that side's definitely more regulatory than compliance. Compliance is more about doing things right for the mortgage.
Right, okay.
That's more about as a business and handling your customers.
So many facets to it that.
Yeah, but building the system the way we have, it was so obvious to me that for you was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And it was another feature we could have, as what, like we say, as well as the training, like even lenders' details. So logging into to Halifax, we'll have a different username, password, and memorable data. We've got 4 advisors, so we all have our own. All of that is built into the system because it's passworded. It's there, but it's one accessible place. For us.
What about sort of sensitive information?
Sensitive information?
As in, well, obviously anyone who works here is going to be privy to know how much someone's mortgage is, because it's a customer of the business they work for.
Yeah.
But there'll be stuff that's sensitive between, you might not want your staff to know that.
So it's like there's 2 things. From a customer point of view, you're not allowed to keep anything that isn't relevant. So at the time of an application, it may be relevant to know and have a record of something. That might be upcoming hospital appointments, stuff like that. But then you have to purge that data. So vulnerable, for example, we would take that vulnerability out. And it's just there and relevant. But that's the same with anything. We're not really supposed to keep.
But what I was kind of meaning is
right. So personal, staff.
Staff,
so
staff.
Because HR. So
the HR side of it,
So no one could stumble into the area that I'm authorised to be in. No.
So what would you have on there then?
The staff could. It's just a password that's encrypted, isn't it?
No, what I'm saying is, what would that be used for? So you've got your training. So you're keeping a note of the training.
Well, HR, that's just for staff's files, contracts, the training development. It's also got their own passwords that they can access, but it's payslips.
Payslips on
there. It's their contract. It's their.
So they've got their own. What I'm getting around to, because obviously I know the system inside out, is they've got their own area.
Yeah.
They've got their own dashboard which shows their customers that are needed to be working on, that are relevant to them, the ownership at the time.
Yeah.
They've got access to anything that would you say it was a compliance or regulatory where basically the FCA or Quilt or whoever has said to you, your staff need to be inducted into this. They can go on, they can read whatever document is or watch whichever video it is.
Signed to say
that's signed, stamped, so you know that's done now. There's no dispute with that. That's been done. So you've got that. They can view the pay slips. They can update, or you can go on and update their own next of kin, blah blah blah.
But it's all in one place, isn't it? Like, so it doesn't need to be everywhere. And from us, it's very much the PGS brand, and that's great. But selflessly, if there's brokers out there that's struggling and maybe he's not offering the customer services because their CRM isn't up to date. Because everyone who does mortgages are good at customer service. You cannot not be. Solicitors get away with it because it's very technical. Not many people understand the language. I had, before you walked in, 5 or 6 forms lined out because we're selling our property. Minefield, literal minefield. Mortgages is all about breaking it down to a language they understand, being empathetic, and making sure that you're transparent and giving them feedback, even when there isn't anything to give. And the system just allows us to do that so simply.
So I know we've gone on a bit longer than usual today, but wrapping up, how would you describe it in, I don't know, say 10 words, 20 words, in a short description of what it does for you, benefits and effect?
So for us, what it does is allows us to know where we are, plan where we're going to be, never let a customer down, and get that 5-star review, which is also a part of the system, testimonials, that we get to the point where the customer just feels like they were looked after by 20 staff, not just the 3 or 4 that maybe were involved in their process. Peace of mind, I sleep at night because my system, and also I could log on at home, holiday, log on, see where we are in all areas, whether it's a new inquiries. We've got a log on new inquiries, which tallies up against last year's new inquiries. Are we quiet? Are we busier? Bearing in mind, a brand new inquiry is gold, isn't it? Like brand new is that's where we're doing great. We're always going to have our existing customers. Brand new is great to see coming through the door. So no, to me, that's what it gives you. It gives you peace of mind. It lets us know that we're safe and doing the job right. It also helps us like having a personal assistant for individual, because it'll highlight those read out of date cases. It'll have your notes. It'll have the reflections, and it'll have that reminder in a digital format, whether it's a voice clip or an image of your fact find at your fingertips.
So what do you think is the best feature?
So for me, it's the overall analysis side of it. That there's a part that you helped me build before, the graphs and things like that. I can really see where the kind of tipping point will be. So that might be Joe's going to be inundated with purchase appointments for protection. That's going to need about 24 hours in a week. So we need to support her on her front end. Or it might be that we've had a sudden influx of product transfers, which is great, but they're not going to complete for 6 months. So we need to be aware that money that's just being pumped into the business in terms of like existing new customers that's coming, that's created a really good month for us. It's not going to jump for 6 months. So we've got a way of looking at a forecast. For me, you ask the staff, they'll all give you a different answer. They all use different areas.
But for that, I think I know it's going off topic from the actual the main myth that we're busting, but it allows you at a glance to look at pretty much anything to do with your business, doesn't it? It allows you to see, the money that's coming in, money that's actually already come in, money that is due to come in, sort of forecast. It even lets you see, you log. I mean, a lot of it is down to manual login and things like that, but you log in there, even social media interaction. You can put on there. Another great thing is, how did the customer find you? So you can look on there straight away and say, bloody hell, we're doing something right here, because 60% of our
Honestly, we had
jobs are
we had
recommendations.
LinkedIn, a lot of people, including Paul Archer, one of my favourite mentors with
Mm.
the business, he said LinkedIn is not a place to get your customers.
Mhm.
Wrong.
Mm.
I get so many customers
Through LinkedIn.
And I don't want to tell him that
No.
because I'm happy for him to tell all the other mortgage advisors
Yeah,
because I'm using it.
Cut this bit out.
And that's the power of this system because I only know that from analysis.
Yeah.
Because I asked you to add LinkedIn just in case we get one. And woof, like when we built the website,
Yeah.
we're still building it. The amount of inquiries we've had from that since building this website, unreal. Because we were always recording that and it's just gone. So for all we spent an absolute fortune on it, worth every penny.
Yeah.
Because how many people are using that website that aren't customers or are customers that maybe aren't clicking through, but still getting all that free data. And at some point they'll probably use us or talk about us.
Yeah.
And if that's all we've done is educate and they've used the wrong bank, then
It's all right. You've done your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, last couple of questions. What if you could add anything to it? I know you say you've pretty much got your wish list done.
Honestly, you'd kill us if I said anything, so I'll say no, nothing. That's it, nothing. It's done.
I will. I definitely will. That was a test.
You would never need anything more from this system unless something new came about. Yeah. So we added, if we had a new page, or we brought in a compliance manager. There may be new areas because it goes so far, but Quilter already do it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to go directly authorised, because there's firms out there that will say, well, we already have one because we're directly authorised. You don't. You have a compliance database and you'll have a CRM.
Mm-hmm.
So you could expand that into that phase, but that would just be a place where you stored in your documents like pay slips, bank statements, but also you have to then store the real nitty-gritty stuff. You have to store the address history.
Yeah.
You have to store the income. You have to store the expenditure and affordability. But that's already built. Don't need that because we're under a network. We're quite lucky that way. But if we did go directly,
you would have to.
We'd need to expand the system. But given what we've got, I think that would be a piece of cake.
So you've spent the last hour and a bit selling how good this is that you've built.
Customer must wonder from behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like how are you looking after it? And how are you so good at picking up things and doing it? Because Outlook diary is great, calendar is great, staff are great, productivity is great. We've got physical to-do lists that you've knocked up, but it all comes down. The system tells you today what's in your to-do list.
But I know myself. You have your own systems of working, be it even just keeping your books right, how you manage your diary, how you do all of that. Customers. Yeah, but I know through becreativecumbria.co.uk, I know that with that I'm self-employed graphic designer, and it's hard enough looking after your own stuff and reminding yourself. I've not got anything like this system. To be honest, I should knock myself up a little clone. But with that, like this, it is amazing how much that can do and how much that takes pressure off it. It does it all for you. That gives you would imagine, an advantage because it frees up more time for you to do other things.
Times things have gone wrong, that the system has helped us not bail us out, but
prove things,
contain things during the mayhem, and then fix things after the storm's cleared. That might just be Outlook when we had that down. Microsoft. It wasn't our fault. Microsoft went down.
No,
we were able to go into the areas where we knew it was critical, and one customer still didn't get the emails where we sent out the
right.
We're really sorry. This window, we've had no communications. If you did, please get in touch with us. That we were able to pull off the system. All those customers, boom, done. Send them a text. Use social media. We got there and we did. So yes, we were panicking because we had no comms whatsoever. But the system saved us because otherwise, let's say Wi-Fi goes down, we can't access the system.
No.
Yeah. But we can take the device. Outside, use 3G, and get onto the system. So it's portable. It's a cloud device.
Yeah. But with it being cloud, I mean, there's always a chance with everything, though, every system in the whole world, that something, it could be offline
we get little niggles. We back it up. And at the end of the day, a lot of today's tasks are on your desk. Yeah. So whether that be on a personal list that you've written down or in your inbox. So you never stop working. and the system has never been down for more than, I'd say, 30 seconds. There's been glitches.
Which you're always going to get.
And that was mainly your fault because you're developing while we're doing it. Not your fault, but you're in there doing things for us that we're asking you to do. And just having a conflict with a live system, isn't it?
Of course it is. It's all about syncing data, isn't it?
But that's where we've now agreed that like we kind of have downtime for an evening where the system isn't used. You go and do your updates, tweaks, or whatever. But fingers crossed, now this is about kind of enjoying the system because we put so much into it.
So
but it's all there to bust that myth.
So it's given you such an advantage in terms of customer service. It's as something you've always I've seen from the first day I met you. That's what you pride yourself on. You want to be the one that people say he did a really good job for us. You've got all these testimonials. You've got all that. What's the next step for this system? Because are you thinking, right, I'm just going to keep myself here. This is it, or are you thinking, this could be something that we could market. This is something
it's not fair to the industry because I can't have every customer, and I think it's one of these things that we're gonna push out.
How does that work though? Because surely that's going to make people catch up to that level. It's going to give them an advantage.
I think it's just fair.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like everyone's going to get there eventually. Why make them sweat blood and tears to invent the same thing? Because guarantee it'll come with the same outcome. That's what they want. No one would. If the process is different, they might call things different. They might have different names. They may even, as a personal business, not chase people 7 months before they might wait till 3. Don't know. Don't care.
Changeable though.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's one of these where we put it out there to the industry and offer it because God's honest truth. You put that on the shelf when I needed it, I bought it all day.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't have trusted it. I wouldn't think that something was going to be so good back then. I always thought I was going to get something that would do. That I'd spent a lot of money on, but I needed it. This is something not just that I need, I couldn't live without. The
thing is as well, it's not something that you've rushed. It's not an idea that you've had, I'm going to make this to market.
Couldn't be looked after. We've got too many customers. It's too much data all at once. It would be impossible to cope with just a phone and a diary and an inbox and a spreadsheet. We need this system because I can plan for when it's busy. And that might just be Laura looking and going, no, Chris, you're not having your holiday then. We've got 70 customers coming. We need to fill that diary.
Yeah.
So to me, when we put this out, we will put it out. We'll put it out, and we'll build a what we would call like a demo system to show advisors, and we'll put it out there. And do you know what? They'll see it, and we can demo it. We can let them experience it, and it's so relatable to how they would do business. No one would not want it.
So I take it across the board. Well, basically the systems are there. It's across the board, no matter where you are practicing.
Everyone's got customers stored somewhere. You put your customers in the database, off you go.
I just mean as in like the process for mortgage advising, no matter where you are in the country, is pretty much
similar. If you're a one-man band, you wouldn't have those sections. But if you're a one-man band, you're dealing with about 20 customers at a time. And even if you had them in the system, that would make your life a hell of a lot easier. You'd soon be able to turn them customers into 50 and have a member of staff that you could afford to pay. It's what it did. It's like I'm mad and anal about the process.
Definitely.
And productivity.
Yeah.
And I've built something which is perfect that I'm happy with, and I'm the most critical person of the process because the process used to live in my head, and I used to never let anyone know the secret. Now I employ advisors, staff, and training, power planners, and yourself, and we've built something now.
See, I never thought we'd get there. I never thought we'd get to the point where, and that's no disrespect to you. I never thought we'd get to the point where you would say, right, that is now, that is pretty much as I wanted.
But as it comes down again, the myth, it's a fluke. Because I never set this out. And we started this 2 years ago.
Yeah, but is that not good though?
I never said to you that in 18 months' time, mortgage is going to be all over the news, all over the papers, all over social media, and customers are going to need us more than ever. They don't need us to make money.
No.
They don't need us to give them good news. They need us to be there. And with the amount of customers we get as new customers, but also more importantly, all those customers that wrote those nice reviews, nice that we got in the house, but are we there for them now? Oh, yeah. Why are we there? The system.
And that the thing.
I could have employed 3 more staff. 3 more staff could have managed that them trays, paperwork, running about. But like you say, COVID, people being off ill, we're down. The system will always keep
always there. And the other thing is, you haven't created this system thinking, right, I want to make something that I can sell. You've basically had a need for something, had an idea, worked on it for yourself, for your business, which is your baby, which is something that you'll put above everything else.
Yeah.
You've tailor-made it to that, so now you know it's bang on.
Yeah.
So if it's good enough for you, in effect, why not?
But it's not so much about kind of thinking, right, yeah, but it's like, it's too good not to be shared. It's too good not to be mass marketed to anyone who wants to be a mortgage advisor, whether all of Quilter's advisors, as an option to have, subscribe to purchase, don't know. All I know is I'm tight, and if it was there, I'd have bought it. I'd pay a lot of money for it because I've spent a lot of money on it. But 50 grand was the price I was quoted to build a system. That wouldn't have been up to scratch because I wouldn't have had the resources or the access. I mean, Guthrie and Craig won't mind us saying they started this off. And even as a very close mate, Neil Emsley said, look, I'm better off passing you on to a third party because then you can actually be charged and billed for all these extra hours, which, as you know, amount up.
Certainly do.
And it's kind of one of those where by taking it this way and having this, we meet a lot, we meet once a week, to be able to point out what I mean and explain to you what I mean, not just
so much easier than just send an email saying to me, can you do this in the X plan to do section? Like, I don't know it that inside out to know what you want. Sit with you. You might tell me, oh, well, this is what I need to do. And I'll say, oh, I have to go away and do it. I'll do it over the weekend and get it done.
Now
for
you're
you.
on board with this, as you are with my application, it's become your baby too.
Oh, yeah, of course it has.
You know, like, and
I'm chasing you lately. As you've got busier, I'm chasing you for things. I'm sending you voice clips on a night time saying, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? How's the system going? Blah, blah. And I think that's, that's obviously your passion for it. It's rubbed off on me, but it's
about knowing. We couldn't have built this for an estate agency.
No
chance. We need to bring in an estate agent and work with them.
I bet you could modify it for that though now, couldn't you?
100% you could modify it, but you'd need an estate agent
of course.
to tell you. And they would. If they want to build their own system, you could change a few tweaks and change a few names and change a few features. You'd need particulars on there, of course you would, but we built something with a very experienced mortgage advisor that the guys who do the jobs that I don't do have had the input. They've had direct access to you on a WhatsApp. They've tweaked it without my permission because who am I to say you don't need that when it's their job 24/7? So I think what I mean is, I think the myth's busted. Once you get a mortgage, are you on your own? Certainly not. You might not hear us for the next 60 months because we're there in the background. You'll get an email from us to let you know we're here. But in the background, we're doing so much to your data and evolving your data.
Managing them still.
To the point of we're ready when you are. And I think, and we're not just ready, we're ready.
Yeah.
We're not just, we'll get things together. We're already there. At a click of a button, you're in Chris's diary and he'll speak to you tonight. Don't need to do a thing.
So in effect, this rarely happens nowadays in the modern world, but I was passing your office, saw the lights on, Sunday night time, give you a knock. All right, Paddy, how's it doing? Yeah, I'm all right, Mr. Jones, but could you just look into do you have any of my records there? You can do it, bang, straight away. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. I know I've spent a lot of time making it, but it's mad that this can be done.
Didn't we? First
yeah.
And do you know what? People will be, if anyone listens to this, who's listening to it for the mortgage side of it, because they're a customer, which is who they'll be thinking, would this exist? Because I work for a cleaning company and we've got a system too, right? You have the mortgage advisory market and the people within it, the professionals, are so outdated on technology, it's scary. Also, the one
crazy, isn't it?
It's a very old industry, and people won't mind me saying that. A lot of young bloods now coming into it, and they will be thinking like this: why have we not got this already? You should have seen the sourcing system we used 2-3 years ago. Trigold. It was an app, a .exe file.
Right. Okay.
An application, not an app like we know it. An application. .exe file. And that was horrific.
Yeah.
We had to update it once a day.
And when was that, roughly?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
We loved it as well. It's hard to get rid of it.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Very manual.
It's like everything, isn't it?
Bulletproof, but we'd be screwed today because it updated once a day.
Right.
With a click of a button. If you forgot to update it, you could be 6 months behind.
Whereas this is literally on the fly.
Yeah, well, it's in the cloud.
Brilliant.
Anyway,
Good. Hopefully we've busted it then.
right, there we go. Once we get you a mortgage, are you on your own? Not a chance. Even if we wanted to let you be on your own, you wouldn't. The system would knock on your door before we'd even know it.
Yeah.
So great to be back into it.
Yeah, it's been a good one.
To be honest, we do need to get a podcast next week, and we need to be talking about the market. I think it's it may not even be a myth. We'll name it strategically, but I think we need to talk about what people's going through, and we'll try and get one of the other guys in. To talk about the stresses, ideally, whether it be Bobby, Chris, or Charlotte, to talk about the stresses, because behind the scenes we're working our asses off. It's tough. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Terrible.
You know that because you can see it on the system.
Right, cool. Guys,
brilliant.
I'll not keep you any longer.
Thank you.
Great to see you, and thanks for tuning in to episode 14. And we'll see you again next week for episode 15.
Thank you.